Hey, what's up? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the best episode of Batman the Animated Series, according to the internet. So, all of my Batman Animated Series videos have been over the first season, and that's because up until now, I've only had the first season on DVD. But recently, I got the complete series on Blu-ray, and I've been going through it and watching episodes I've never seen before, having a nice old good time. And I figured since I have all the episodes now, I do a video going over what the internet considers to be the best episode. There's the same 5 or so episodes shuffled around on every list, like The Man Who Killed Batman, Beware the Grey Ghost, and Perchance to Dream. But the most consistent number 1 or number 2 spot has been Heart of Ice. Looking at reviews of this episode online, the general consensus is that the episode turned Mr. Freeze from a gimmick character to a sympathetic villain with a tragic past. Also, here is an actual quote from a review of this episode. Heart of Ice is the episode you make your friends watch to convince them that this is not just another children's animated series. In other words, this is a serious episode about serious topics. I'm gonna be comparing my opinions with the online reviews later, but for now, let's go ahead and just get into the best episode of Batman the Animated Series, according to the internet. Starting this episode off, we see the title card, which is basic but works well. If you didn't know, every episode of Batman the Animated Series starts with a title card, and while there have been better, there also have been much worse. Paul Dini and Bruce Timm are the writers and directors on this episode, so you know it's gonna be some primo shit. Seeing those names in the credits is like seeing Nintendo's stamp of approval. We open this episode with a news report about multiple break-ins where the perp used a freeze gun to steal various pieces of equipment.
The attacker's motives remain unclear.
Also, Mark Hamill, who obviously plays the Joker in the series, plays Ferris Boyle, the CEO of the company that's been getting burgled.
If this man has a problem, we're willing to listen.
I'm not sure if that really adds anything to the story, but it's something I noticed, so now it's something you know. After hearing about the string of robberies, Batman decides to look into what was taken, and after figuring out they're making a big-ass laser, Batman knows where to look next. While following the armored truck, Mr. Freeze lays down a layer of ice on the road that causes the Cape Crusader to spin out like he got blue-shelled in Mario Kart.
What the fuck?
Even though Mr. Freeze has a real armored car, Batman has a plot armored car, so he makes his way to the warehouse to interrupt the thieves. Michael Ansara voices Mr. Freeze in this episode, and I mean, what can I say?
It was perfect. Perfect.
The name of the game for Mr. Freeze is Revenge, and he wants to take down Batman not because he's a villain and that's just what they do, but because Batman isn't helping him, he's no use to the human popsicle.
Since you ally yourself with my enemies, you leave me no choice.
During the shootout, one of Mr. Freeze's henchmen gets hit with the ice ray, and we see just how cold Mr. Freeze is, pun intended.
But he's one of us.
Then perhaps you'd like to share his fate.
Batman is also hit with the freeze ray, but I think Mr. Freeze turns down the power of the freeze ray so he doesn't kill him. Either that or Batman is just Batman. We cut to the Batcave where we see the henchman in a tube of liquid, and it really reminds me of Wolverine in the 97 X-Men animated series.
Where are you, Yuriko?
Batman has a cold from being frozen, so get ready to have to deal with that the rest of the episode.
And spit on that thing.
Bruce meets up with Boyle to gather some information on who might be behind this. We hear the Ferris Boyle version of the Mr. Freeze backstory, which involves an obsessed scientist that was using company property for personal use. And it all ended in a crazy fight that was really nobody's fault, so don't look into it. We were cleared by our insurance company.
Look, Bruce, that people company line is great PR, but when the wage slaves start acting like they own the place, it's time to pull the plug. Know what I mean?
We also learn that Ferris Boyle is about to win an award for being a humanitarian, and totally unrelated, but you remember when Disney tried to trademark the Dia de los Muertos holiday, and also the name SEAL Team 6? These are canon events. These are things that actually happened. While looking into the lab accident that Boyle was talking about, Bruce finds out the information has been covered up, so it's time to hit the bricks.
You okay?
I'm fine. Off.
After sweet-talking the guard, Batman gets access to the record room, and we get our backstory for Mr. Freeze. I think now is probably the best time to talk about my feelings on Mr. Freeze. A lot of people stan the Frozen Man, and I just don't get it. I mean, I guess it's because of his tragic backstory, but how many other characters in the history of ever have had dead wife on the top of their character sheet? I mean, the Mad Hatter in this series was a Reddit guy who wanted a hot trad wife, but good girls only go for bad guys, and throughout the episode we see the Hatter falling down a slippery slope to try and get a hot wife but ending up with bupkis. Or the episode about a child actor with a medical condition that just wants to get the gang back together one last time because that's the last time they were happy. Literally the plot of early BoJack Horseman. Maybe it's just me, but those stories hit harder than dead wife. If Mr. Freeze is one of your favorite characters, let me know in the comments why and what episode was your favorite. I mean, they brought him back quite a few times. The Blu-ray that I have of the animated series even came with what they call the Freeze Saga, which has episodes from this series, Batman Beyond, and the new Batman Adventures. It also has the Sub-Zero movie, but since it also has Mask of the Phantasm, I'll give it a pass. Before we get back to the episode, I want to say that I don't think Freeze is a bad character. I just think he's an overhyped character. Now, back to the episode. After Batman is done watching the origin tape, we get this line.
My God.
Yes. It would move me to tears if I still had tears to shed.
I have nothing cool to do.
With another pro shot. I'm Uggers the Jerk. I like to eat worms and dance around. Look at me, eating worms and dancing around with worms coming out of my mouth.
We come back to Batman tied up in a frozen cave like that one Star Wars reference in the Lego Indiana Jones game. While trying to de-escalate the situation, we get my favorite line of the episode.
To never again walk on a summer's day with a hot wind in your face and a warm hand to hold. Oh yes, I'd kill for that.
While Batman is chipping away at his icy shackles, we see Freeze pulling up to and sealing in the building Boyle is in. Batman is weak, but manages to hop the ice fence in time to hopefully save the day.
The wall just got 10 feet higher!
After taking out the hench people operating the laser and getting his belt back, Freeze uses a speedrunning technique known as the hydrant skip to get to Boyle and start cooling down his revenge. I mean, it is the dish best served cold after all. You know, for as little of a shit that I give about his backstory, I can and will say that Mr. Freeze is really an intimidating villain. Like, the way he talks and what he says really does run chills down my spine.
You beg? In my nightmares, I see my Nora behind the glass, begging to me with frozen eyes. How I've longed to see that look frozen on you.
See, I don't hate men.
You know, now I see why the Mr. Freeze and Batman and Robin turned out the way he did.
The Iceman, in this universe, there's only
Like, it's just too easy to make puns with this character.
Freezes.
We get the all is lost moment when Freeze has Batman right where he wants him, but then Batman uses some chicken noodle soup I forgot to talk about earlier to smash Freeze's glass dome, incapacitating him. Yeah, Batman kinda basically took an old man's oxygen tank and pushed him down the stairs with broken glass in his eyes, but he also gave a reporter a copy of the tape that shows what really happened when Freeze was working in the lab late one night before his eyes beheld an eerie sight.
Ah, scary song!
We end this episode with Freeze waxing poetical in a cell at Arkham and Batman watching from a nearby rooftop.
I can only beg your forgiveness and pray you'll hear me somehow. Someplace where a warm hand waits for mine.
Now, don't get it twisted, this episode is one of the best episodes of Batman the Animated Series, hands down, but is it really universally the best, no questions asked? I don't think so. This episode kind of reminds me of another one in Season 1 called Appointment in Crime Alley. What I mean by that is that both episodes are serious episodes about serious topics, and that's fine, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that I prefer the more lighthearted episodes, like the one with Doctor Strange. The story is high stakes, I mean the identity of Batman is potentially getting released, but they still have lighthearted moments, like all the villains pulling up to Strange's resort, or Night of the Ninja and Day of the Samurai. Those episodes talk about Bruce's past and his training, and he has to go up against someone who he was a student with. I mean, if you want to go for sympathetic villains, there's Catwoman, like the episode Cat Scratch Fever, where we see Selina struggle not to commit crimes, but she has to put on the suit again in order to save her cat from an evil company. I guess what I'm trying to say again is that while this is a great episode, I don't think it's the definitive answer for the question of what is the best episode. But then again, everything I've been talking about has been personal opinion, and there's still over 100 episodes in this series, so who really cares at the end of the day? Let me know in the comments what you think about this episode and what episodes you'd want me to cover next. I've been thinking about doing a tier list video ranking every episode in the series, but that's 109 episodes, like 35 hours of shit to go through, so it would take a while to make. But if it's something you'd want to see, let me know by commenting and dropping a like on this video. If you like my content and want to see more of me, I co-host a podcast with Arnie King called Henny for Your Thoughts, and we upload new episodes every 2 weeks. You should also follow me on Instagram to stay up to date on videos coming out and other projects that I work on. Also, if you want to show your support and get behind the scenes updates, you should follow me on Patreon. Anyway, until next time, later.